people get involved in your campaign. They say, you know what, I love this woman. I love what she's doing. She's fighting for us. This is John Villarreal reporting for Conservative New Media.
Now, I want to bring in Paul from Conservative Media, my brother Paul Villarreal. Paul, are you there? Okay. So what do you think about this? And you have a lot of breaking stories that we're going to talk about here and mix up with everybody. What do you think? What does victory look like to you? I know you've been thinking about that a little bit, but how do you define victory? Because you're someone, just to refresh the listeners here, you actually used to be a real hardcore liberal, and most of our family is big-time liberals, and I pulled you over to the right side of things here, and I got you listening to Rush and the whole 9 yards, and you're someone that's kind of taken a train with being a liberal, and then you were for Hillary Clinton, and you're part of that Puma crowd, and now you're a full-blown conservative, and as conservative as almost anybody out there, almost like Reagan in a way. And so you're someone that doesn't get as hung up on party labels as opposed to someone like me that's been voting Republican my entire life, never voted for a Democrat. But what does victory look like to you in November?
Victory looks like to me, in effect, being able to stop the Obama agenda going forward. And that means to me, it's hopefully taking one or both houses of Congress, both chambers of Congress. It looks like the House, is more in range to be gotten right now, just so more of these cap and trade and this Disclose Act, which is funding that favors free speech, or it's funding of elections that favors unions but doesn't favor corporations, that these types of pieces of legislation can be stopped. And I hate to say it, the country doesn't want gridlock, but if you can get gridlock against a very left-wing agenda for another couple years while Obama is still in the White House, that might be the best scenario in terms of my opinion.
Look, I agree with that. I think that step one is we have to stop this Obama agenda. And whether you're an inside DC elite or rhino or non-rhino, whatever like that, I have to give props to, frankly, almost all the Republicans out there in DC right now that are in the Congress. They've been doing a great job of just voting lockstep and saying no to any more of this Obama agenda. No more stimulus, no more takeovers, no more crazy bills and socialist or quasi-socialist type of situations here. So hats off to everyone on that. They at least figured out that at least from now to the election, this is the right way to go. And let's hope that some of them, for lack of, as the saying goes, quote unquote, got some religion on this part. So I think that's definitely step one. Step two, though, has to be that we need to get good conservatives in there, regardless of party, who are going to enact legislation and policies that are pro-growth, that are pro-freedom, that are pro-liberty. I want to see lower taxes. I want to see this debt and deficit come down. I want to see government roll back. I want to see real cuts. I mean, serious, real cuts in the federal government and the state government. We needed someone to take on squarely this entitlement issue. I will say that I don't agree with everything that's in his plan, but I agree with a lot of it. I really like what Paul Ryan has done, Congressman Paul Ryan. At least he's gone out there and put together a detailed plan. And at least he has something that takes some courage and some boldness and some study. And he's gone out there and put something together. And look, let's broaden this out as well. I think we also need to talk about, in order to talk about this subject intelligently, of what do you believe in and why, and what victory looks like to you, let's talk about which conservative figures out there that you really admire and why. And I want to hear from people right now at 551-3483 or outside, toll free, anywhere in the U.S., 866-770-5556. Which conservative figures, that could be in the media, maybe it's Glenn Beck, maybe it's Rush Limbaugh, maybe it's Laura Ingraham, maybe it's Bill O'Reilly, maybe it's Sean Hannity, or politician, or activist. Is it a Tea Party activist? Is it a politician like a Paul Ryan? Is it a Chris Christie? Is it some of the new people like Mark Rubio? Is it John Boehner? Who do you most admire and why? And what to these, once we get enough folks in here, I want to hear from the listening audience. This is about you today. This is about you. I want to know from the KFIV and KWSX audience, which conservative figures do you most admire and why? And once we get enough of those names out there, we're going to find out what those folks might have in common. So I want you to call up right now at 551-3483, toll free anywhere in the U.S., 866-770-5556. I want to know which conservative figures you admire most, and I want to know what victory in November looks like to you and why. I am John D. Villarreal. I'm sitting in for Dave Diamond. You are listening to Afternoons Live on KFIV 1360 AM and KWSX 1280 AM, Stockton and Modesto. And we're back here on KFIV 1360 AM Modesto and KWSX 1280 AM, Stockton. I'm John D. Villarreal. I'm filling in for Dave today. You're listening to Afternoons Live. And Dave will be back tomorrow as soon as he squares away this beehive situation at his house. And we're talking today about what do you believe in and why. What does victory look like to you in November? What policies do you want to see enacted? We're talking about the insiders versus people, the GOP elite versus conservatives. We're going to talk about the Beck versus the GOP insiders, the big Beck event this weekend. We have so much to talk about. And we're also talking about what conservative figures, media, political, or activists that you admire most and why. Is it Rush Limbaugh? Is it Sarah Palin? Is it Chris Christie, Governor Chris Christie? I mean, you tell me. Call in at 555-3483 or toll free 866-770-5556. Anywhere, toll free in the U.S. Now, we're going to go right now to one of our great writers for conservative new media and very well-respected guy, Mark Ciavola. Mark, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here, John.
Great to have you. Now, I want to get your take on that real quick, and then I want to talk about this fantastic article that you put out on Conservative New Media today on our website, because I think it ties right into this whole situation. I mean, what do you define as victory in November? What does that look like to you?
Well, I think our first goal in November is to change the direction of the country, and we're not going to do that if we don't take back the House.
Yeah.
So I think that needs to be where we measure success. Anything that gets us closer to taking back the White House in 2012, taking back the Senate, which, I'm not sure if we can do this year. It would be great if we could.
It's going to be close.
But if we can't, we certainly want to get ourselves in a position to be able to do that in 2012.
Now, you're out there in Nevada, if I remember this right. You're in Vegas, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Now, that's Sharon Angle country. Dovetailing on what we talked about before, which conservative figures, media, political activists, or politicians that you admire most? Tell me some of your favorite political people, your favorite conservatives, your conservative figures, and then talk about this Sharon Angle race a little bit.
Well, you mentioned Chris Christie, and I think that's an interesting dynamic that's happening this year, in that people are tired of politicians telling them what they want to hear.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Christie's a guy who came in and said, look, this is what I believe. Vote for me because I want to fix this. They voted for him. He's in, and he says, this is what I'm going to do, and if you don't like it, you can vote me out. But I won the election. We're going to fix New Jersey, and that's what he's doing, and he's telling people, whether they want to hear it or not, what needs to be done to fix the economy there, and, obviously the education system now he's lighting up. So, I mean, those are the type of politicians that I think we need to start seeing, are people who are fed up, and they're committed to fixing these problems regardless of the political cost.
I love it. I love Chris Christie. I've said that to everyone, especially the folks out here that aren't as tuned into it. I mean, I stay up a lot of times and watch Morning Joe and I have family in New Jersey, and they were really all over this race. I think that Chris Christie, hands down, is the best Republican politician going right now for what he's doing, for his straight talk, and his ability to get results. And I hope that more people, that are elected take up like him. Now, you wrote a very powerful, and I mean, you're a great writer, and we love having you on there. And I also would say that we love having the advertising support of GOP Proud. I know you're a member of that, and we think that's fantastic. I've always said from the get-go that I believe in big tent Republican politics, big tent conservative politics, and the message of conservatism is for everybody, bar none. But you wrote a fantastic article, and if anyone is not familiar with Mark, you've got to go on Conservative New Media right now. You have to check out this new article, and you have to check out his old articles. The man is a brilliant writer, and he writes in a very powerful and persuasive way. Talk to us about what this article is and what the message is about just the numbers right now in this economy and the tax policy.
Well, yeah, I mean, my article today focused on tax and the size of government, and it's part of a series that I call Common Sense Conservatism, because I think all too many times we expect people to understand exactly what we're saying, yet we don't take the time to explain these positions and how they affect people in the real world. And, you know, I asked the question in the article, how much do you think the government should be able to take from you? And in reality, that's not the question that needs to be answered. The question that needs to be answered is, how much should the government be able to spend?
Yeah.
Because however much they choose to spend, they're taking it from you to pay for it.
That's right.
So when people come out, you know, you have liberals and conservatives on both sides of an issue, and you know, whether you feel like it's a good thing to do or not, the bottom line is we have to pay for it. And people don't seem to understand that money is coming out of their pocket to pay for these programs. So the next time, you know, the Democrats in Congress want to pass a $26 billion bill or a $100 billion bill, you know, ask people and say, well, your share of that bill is, you know, $385. Do you still think they should have to, you know, still think they should be able to pass that bill?
Oh, you mean